We
Okay.
are sitting
I'm
together.
sorry to say this, but I cannot show you my camera because at the moment I'm experiencing a blackout here in Tacloban in the hotel that I am staying. So I'm very sorry if I cannot show my face to everyone this
It's
afternoon.
okay,
Is
ma'am.
it
Yes, ma'am,
okay?
of course. It's very okay
Um,
po.
I hope you are all good and happy for today because in my end I have been experiencing two major earthquakes since yesterday, and it's actually kind of depressing and scary. But I know God is gracious and always there to protect us and give us safety in times of calamity. In your end, I hope you are also safe, happy, and warm with your respective families. And just enjoy our topics for this afternoon. This will just be very light, and I am very open to any questions at the end of my talk. Is it okay? As of the moment, we are 506 in the platform. And Miss May, are these educators, all educators?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my topic for this afternoon is about evidence-based literacy and numeracy interventions. For educators who are in DepEd, you can relate to my talk because these are all anchored to the recent programs and activities that DepEd is giving us teachers and school heads. And of course, this is for the benefit of our clientele, which are the learners. So for this, the focus of my topic is on understanding how research-backed strategies can be integrated into education practices to foster foundational skills in reading and mathematics, ultimately leading to improved student outcomes. Of course, we are gonna back this up with data. Even in DepEd or in other institutions, we are into data-driven decision making for us to be able to cater to plans and activities and programs that will surely ensure success at the end of the activity. Also, in my talk, I will emphasize the importance of systematic, explicit, and data-driven instruction that caters to the diverse needs of learners. This presentation will explore the critical role of evidence-based approaches in enhancing literacy and numeracy skills among our learners. We will delve into specific programs such as the recent program, which is BB, the 3Bs. I think you're familiar with it. Bawat bata bumabasa, or to translate, it's every child must read, and also and also other various national reading and math initiatives to understand their design, implementation, and impact. Our discussion aims to provide valuable insights for educators, administrators, and policymakers seeking to implement effective interventions. I believe in this virtual platform, we are a mix of educators, administrators, and policymakers. Now, for our objectives, first is we will gain a comprehensive understanding of prominent evidence-based literacy and numeracy interventions, including their foundational principles and target skill areas. Next, we will critically analyze the research and data supporting the effectiveness of these programs, identifying what makes them successful and also the areas for further development. Next, we will learn how to apply best practices derived from research to improve student outcomes in literacy and mathematics within various educational settings. Why am I always emphasizing this about literacy and numeracy? Because there's this notion that if a child fails to read even when he's already in grade 7, he or she won't be able to understand what's the point of coming to school when one student cannot understand and comprehend a simple sentence. So that is why there is this move that if possible, a child who cannot read in his own level should actually not proceed to the next level, because there is this thing called, what's the point? I mean, will he or she understand the complex ideas, the complex subjects that will be introduced in the next level if he or she cannot read in his or her current level? And that's what the 3Bs is trying to achieve, the bawat bata bumabasa. But I think it's already BBM, bawat bata makababasa. Okay. So for an overview of literacy and numeracy interventions in DepEd, so the literacy programs, I hope there are also educators here from DepEd. I hope. Can you have a heart react if you're from DepEd? Can you send me a heart reaction or any reaction, even a light reaction? Okay, there's Ma'am Rizalina Muharram. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hearts now. I think you can relate. I know you can relate to me. It's not I think. I know you can relate. Okay, so we have the bawat bata bumabasa, but as I told earlier, it's now bawat bata makababasa. It's a national reading program in the Philippines designed to ensure all school-age children achieve reading proficiency. It emphasizes foundational literacy skills from an early age, often incorporating local languages and culturally relevant materials to enhance engagement and comprehension. I am actually now very thankful that the mother tongue as a subject is already abolished, because for me, as a school head, I really observe students who are actually having difficulties in translating simple words into Bisaya, because we're from Leyte, we're Bisaya. So for example, our brown, the color brown, the child can understand the color brown. However, in the subject mother tongue, the child needs to translate it to, I forgot the the translation for brown, but the child is having now difficulty in understanding the simple word brown because of the subject. So I'm very happy that mother tongue is already abolished as a subject. However, it can still be used as a medium of instruction or as a translation na lang. Okay? I cannot see your faces, so I think, okay. Now we have the national reading programs. Okay, we have now the recent, the Project Aral, the Aral program. Oh, who can you have a heart react for those who can relate to us having now the Aral? Okay. Aral. Okay, I'm getting heart reaction, so you can relate to Aral. And because of that, as a school head, I have been frequently editing and critiquing classroom programs because of Aral to accommodate the Aral program. But that's on the positive side. The goal is to have our learners be readers in their own level. So yeah. So national reading programs, before last year, I think we have the NLP. If you are familiar with it, the national, I know, the NLP and the NRP. So these programs typically involve systematic, explicit instruction models that cover key components such as phonemic awareness, the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds in spoken words. Decoding, which is breaking words into their component sounds to read them. Reading fluency, or reading with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. Then we have vocabulary development and reading comprehension strategies. sad to say, in our respective schools, I cannot say that all my learners there are reading in their own level. And that's actually very sad because these learners are actually getting behind the lesson because it's hard for them to understand. That's why I salute teachers, really. I really salute teachers who give their extra effort and time, even beyond working hours, to just tutor these learners, have one-on-one sessions with them, and even let them bring home activities. I just hope that the parents, which is not all, but some parents are actually very busy and don't have time to follow up. And in my school, I am really reinforcing this, that parents should be partners in learning, that parents should be our reading partners, our numeracy partners, because what we do in school should be extended at home. So that's really a plea. I think all school heads have that plea for parents, even teachers. So yes. Then we also have national math programs. National math programs. These initiatives focus on developing a strong conceptual understanding of mathematical principles along with procedural fluency. So the key components often include number sense, operations, and algebraic thinking, measurement, data analysis, and geometry. So the emphasis is placed on problem-solving skills and mathematical reasoning. For core components, we also have both literacy and numeracy interventions rely on a structured approach. For literacy, this includes the big five of reading. So what's the big five? We have phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. For numeracy, it encompasses foundational math facts, conceptual understanding, and problem-solving strategies. But our learners nowadays, they are used to the spoon feeding of answers. They want the easiest formula. They hate the problem-solving strategies. They hate problem solving. That's why no wonder in PISA, the Philippines is always lagging behind because as teachers, maluoy man na kita. I am sorry, I'm speaking dialect. We tend to pity our learners who lag behind. And for that, we try to give them the easiest strategy possible so that they can't lag behind. But in the contrary, in answering national tests, they will really lag behind still because in PISA, it actually now focus on the solo taxonomy or the extended abstract for in the construction of the test. And the extended abstract is they tend to think beyond the box. They think beyond thinking. So the questions there requires a student to really think beyond imagination. So that's it. So I think even in as early as grade 1 or 2, I think learners should be exposed to problem solving. They should not just be exposed to 1 plus 1, 10 minus 5 is equals to 5, 1 plus 1 is equals to 2, 5 times 5 is equals to 25. They should also be exposed to if Aling Marta gives me 50 pesos and I was able to buy 3 onions costing this or 3 garlics costing this. So that type of exercises. I think if learners will be practiced as early as grade 1 and 2 with problem solving, they can develop a strategy for problem solving as they go across grade levels. Next, we have multi-tiered support. For multi-tiered support, many effective programs utilize multi-tiered support frameworks. For example, response to intervention, RTI, or multi-tiered systems of support to provide differentiated instruction. This means offering increasingly intensive levels of support based on student needs, from universal instruction for all to targeted interventions for struggling learners. So I have this, I'll just focus on differentiated instruction. So for teachers, di ba, we have different learners and they have varied learning styles. They have different learning intelligences. So I think as teachers, when we are giving activities, we should design them that it should be varied and different. That, for example, visually inclined learners will opt to have an activity on drawing or understanding a certain visual picture. For kinesthetic learners, they can opt to have like a role play or something like that. So a classroom should actually be inclusive enough that they are comfortable to open up their ideas, to exercise their talents, and to show the potentials that they have within. But the problem is when we have learners with special needs. And I think that's an issue because we are now into inclusivity. And as teachers, we are not allowed to deny enrollment to these learners, saying that we are inclusive and these learners should be accommodated into the mainstream classroom. And our regular classroom is the mainstream classroom. However, the question is, are teachers equipped to teach these learners with special needs? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? For example, if we have a visually impaired learner. Yes, Mrs. De La Cruz? Miss May, can you please open the micro? Oh, how is this? Later ng questions?
It's up to you, Miss Darlene. But I think Mrs. De La Cruz can put her question in the chat box po so that you can move forward po. And if ever, kasi baka rin po ma-pass on nyo rin po yung magiging sagot nyo while
Okay.
you move with the
So
session.
later na
Is that
lang.
right? Apo.
So
Yes,
Miss De
ma'am.
La Cruz, can you just park your question for later? I'd be willing to answer you. So just park your question later, Miss De La Cruz, after my talk. Okay, let's proceed. I'm being very talkative. Okay. Then we have implementation strategies for numeracy and literacy. So these strategies are designed to create a supportive and dynamic learning environment that addresses diverse student needs and promotes sustained academic growth. So we have structured instruction. So effective interventions often employ structured small group instruction where teachers work closely with a few students on specific skills. So this allows for immediate feedback and targeted support. Then we have individualized support, which is crucial for students with significant learning gaps, providing one-on-one attention tailored to their unique needs. And ARAL is actually a structured instruction. Why so? Because students are actually grouped according to their needs in reading. So in our school, those who, the data from the CRLA and PhilArray were the basis for the reading for ARAL. So I think later in the question and answer portion, I will be able to also solicit your different reading interventions in your respective schools. Then we have family engagement. So family and caregiver engagement is a cornerstone of successful interventions. As I've said kanina, I, as a school head, is actually pleading and asking support from parents and the community to be reading partners and learning partners. So when families are involved, learning is reinforced at home through reading together, practicing math facts, or simply discussing academic progress. So schools can provide resources and workshops to empower families as partners in education. In our division, we have this capability building for parents because it's not enough that you tap parents to be reading partners. The question is, are you sure that all of your parents or caregivers in their respective houses know how to sound the word? I mean, how to sound a letter, how to read. So we have this capability building so that it ensures that what we are teaching to our learners is also reciprocal and parallel to what the parents will be teaching their learners in the respective homes. So I think I think your divisions have also your own interventions and project banners to actually enforce this capability building for parents and family engagement. Next, we have materials and tools. So in literacy, the use of decodable texts or books that contain a high percentage of words with consistent letter-sound relationships help emerging readers practice phonics skills. For math, manipulatives like base 10 blocks, counting bears, or fraction tiles make abstract concepts concrete and accessible, aiding in conceptual understanding. I am very thankful that the DepEd Central Office is actually giving effort in delivering the materials and tools to the respective schools. In our end, we have science and math equipment in our school being delivered to us so that it can be utilized by the schools. We have the learners are familiar now with what a microscope actually looks like. Then we have these protractors because as they progress in the next level, they will actually be operating this equipment. And it's important that even in the lower grade, in the elementary, they are actually familiar with what is that and how is it used. Then we have technology integration. So integration of technology offers powerful tools for adaptive learning. Programs like Lexia Core 5 provide personalized reading instruction, adapting to each student's pace and needs. So these are actually apps and tools and online tools, which if you're not familiar with this, it's okay. IXL also offers comprehensive math practice that identifies strengths and weaknesses, allowing for targeted skill development and immediate feedback. We also have PhotoMath, which is subject-specific tools. You can actually search that online. It provides basic math exercises that you can actually use and let your learners also answer. Now, for the evidence supporting literacy interventions. So the efficacy of literacy interventions is rigorously evaluated by research bodies such as the What Works Clearinghouse, which rates programs based on the strength of their evidence. This is not in the PEDHA. This is actually an example. So they moderate if a program is strong, moderate, or promising. For our end in DepEd, of course, we have the regular monitoring of our division, then region, and sometimes from the we provide the monitoring tools, and with the help of your school heads, they can facilitate in the giving of the materials that will be used for the program. I hope your respective school heads are also doing the same, and even in your division. In this program, which is the ARAL, am I still audible, Miss May?
Yes, Miss Darlene.
Okay. Because we had the blackout
Oh.
again.
Mm-mm.
Power is fluctuating here, but
Mm-mm.
it's okay. It's okay. No worries. Okay, to continue. Okay, to continue, the recent ARAL is, my teachers and our tutors and volunteers just had an orientation on ARAL, which was conducted by our respective divisions. I think your own respective divisions are also doing the same. So this is actually for the intensification talaga of the ARAL. How is it done? How is it given to learners, what materials to be printed, and so on and so forth. So funds are actually being downloaded just for this program. And it's actually very promising because for us, it just started. And I hope that the one-on-one sessions with the learners can actually reap good results by after 2 months, because I think ARAL will run after 2 months. Hindi pa kasali nga yung grade 1 kasi later na daw yung grade 1. Then we have systematic phonics instruction. So extensive research consistently demonstrates that systematic and explicit phonics instruction significantly improves decoding skills and reading comprehension, particularly for learners in grades from kinder to 3. So this approach teaches letter-sound relationships in a defined sequence, then building a strong foundation for reading. Now we also have fluency building activities. So these activities like repeated readings, choral reading, and partner reading are proven to increase reading automaticity. So the ability to read words effortlessly, and of course the prosody, which is reading with appropriate expression and rhythm. May nagpabasa ako ng grade 6, pero not in our school. May napabasa akong grade 6. Marunong siyang bumasa actually. Tapos marunong ding mag-comprehend. However, parang monotone lang talaga. I think teachers should actually teach also our learners the right expression, the right timing, the pause, the breathing, because it is included with reading. Pero marunong siya mag-comprehend. Tsaka marunong din bumasa. Pero yun nga, parang lifeless. Kumbaga. Then, improved fluency frees up cognitive resources, allowing readers to focus on comprehension rather than word recognition. Then we have vocabulary development. So, explicit vocabulary instruction, including teaching word meanings, morphemes, and strategies for inferring meaning from context, is crucial for reading comprehension across all grade levels. Now we have comprehension strategies. So this is actually very important. Comprehension strategies include strategies such as summarizing. You can actually tell if a student understands what he or she is reading if they can summarize and tell the story or a narrative or an essay that they've read in their own words. If they can share it to you, that's how you can say that a child understands what he or she is reading. And of course, we have predicting. They're able to understand something, they will be able to predict what could possibly happen. And questioning. And of course, making connections that will help them actively engage with text and construct meaning. Let me just go back with this word vocabulary development. I am very amazed until now at how far teachers can actually produce activities, produce motivational exercises for vocabulary development. In my end, I am a school head of a multi-grade classroom. When you say multi-grade classroom, a teacher is handling one or more classes. So for us, we have grades 1 and 2, one teacher lang yon, grades 3 and 4, grades 5 and 6, yung kinder, mag-isa lang yung teacher. So yun, how the varying styles of my teachers on how they actually develop vocabulary for grade 3, iba din yung how they develop the vocabulary for grade 4 kasi iba-iba. So I'm still amazed how far teachers can generate and innovate activities and exercises just for the learners to really enjoy and receive the quality of learning that they should receive. And then, evidence supporting numeracy interventions naman tayo. So we have concrete representations, the use of physical tools. Familiar kayo nito, I'm sure. Like number lines, base 10 blocks, and other concrete representations has been shown to significantly improve students' conceptual understanding of mathematical principles. So these tools allow students to visualize abstract concepts and build a tangible connection to numbers and operations. Then we have timed practice for fluency. So these are structured timed practice sessions which are effective in building math, fact, fluency, and procedural skills. So while conceptual understanding is paramount, automatic recall of basic facts frees up cognitive load for more complex problem solving. So this practice should be balanced and not introduce undue anxiety. Pero sa math, ang alam talaga natin, kailangan talaga practice, practice, and practice. Hindi yung isang problem solving activity, yun yung pabalik-balik hanggang matapos yung 4th quarter. So iba-iba talaga para yung bata ma-practice talaga sa certain mathematical concept. Then we have the early math language development. So research indicates a strong link between early exposure to rich mathematical language. So we have terms like, familiar kaya yung bata nyo ng ganito? More than, less than, equal to, grouping, and then sharing, and later achievement in mathematics. So developing this vocabulary from a young age helps children articulate their mathematical thinking and understand instructions. Even the word increase, dapat malaman ng bata, when you say increase, that means may addition talagang nangyayari. Or when we say decrease, meron talagang subtraction nangyayari. So actually, basic vocabulary words in math is also important to be introduced even at an earlier age. Para as they progress across grade levels, they will develop and actually internalize na lang talaga. Parang routinary na lang. Increase means add. Decrease means subtract. So, ganun. How much more itong more than and less than? Pero as early as grade 1, I can already see that they are now introducing less than, equal to, greater than. Then we have multi-tiered interventions. So like literacy, multi-tiered interventions in mathematics are highly effective in reducing gaps for struggling learners. So by providing tiered support, educators can systematically address areas of difficulty, offering increasingly intensive interventions to ensure all students reach proficiency. Tapos ito, key principles from research. So as I've said, these numeracy and literacy issues and gaps in education are always backed by data and research. And it's alarmingly, and there are alarming results as we progress every year. Parang kailangan talagang ma-address to. That's why every year parang paiba-iba na lang talaga yung pangalan. Last year, NRP, NLP. Ngayon naman, NMP and NRP pala yun. NMP and NRP. Ngayon naman, aral. But still, we are having high hopes na lahat naman ito is para sa bata. So, bahala na yung paiba-iba ang pangalan. Basta, the real goal is to have is that all learners will become readers at their own grade level. So yun naman talaga. So for key principles from research, so explicit, systematic, and sequential instruction, research overwhelmingly supports the critical importance of instruction that is explicit. No, this is familiar with multi-grade classes, explicit instruction, which means clearly stated and demonstrated. Systematic, structured and planned. And sequential, progressing logically from simple to complex. So this approach ensures that students build foundational skills before moving on to more advanced concepts. So yun yung sabi ko, that what they should learn, talagang magsa-start yun sa foundation. Kasi tapos meron pa tayong tinatawag na spiral progression. So if a child lags behind in the foundational skills, kahit nga basic math operations, parang may difficulty pa nga yung ibang bata kahit grade 4 na, grade 5, grade 6. So yun, kailangan talaga nating ma-build up muna ang foundation before they can proceed to complex topics and ideas. Kasi kung hindi natin ma-build yung foundation, kahit yung simple, hindi nila maintindihan, by the time that they would go to more complex topics, they will surely lag behind, and yun nga, ma-fail yung bata. Ma-retain. Or worse, kung mawala ng motivation, mag-drop. So yun. And we are trying to avoid that as much as possible, because every learner should be in school. No child should be left behind. So this approach ensures that students build foundational skills before moving on to more advanced concepts, minimizing gaps in understanding. So yun. We are hoping that gaps will be really minimized and abolished. Then we have multi-tiered systems of support. I think I mentioned this earlier. These are frameworks designed to optimize resource allocation and ensure all students receive the appropriate level of support. So this involves Tier 1 or core instruction for all. Tier 2, we have targeted small group interventions. And the Tier 3, kung may small group intervention, meron pa talagang intensive, individualized intervention. So it's actually from general to a more specific intervention. And of course, continuous progress monitoring. And then we have differentiation based on student data. So of course, yun yung sabi ko, differentiation is what is synonymous to diversity and diversity. And this is essential to meet the diverse needs of learners, the different learning styles, the different learning intelligences. So instruction must be tailored based on the ongoing student data and progress monitoring. Regularly assessing student performance allows educators to identify specific areas of strength and weakness. So yun nga, when you as teachers, because I've also been a teacher before, di ba, as we teach students, and we assess their student performance, we were able to identify kung ano yung strength and weaknesses ng bawat bata. And as we go along, we were able to adjust how we teach. Kaya yun nga, kung ano, may mag-lag behind, the tendency is we really have to stoop down to the level of the child and try to understand na kailangan nating i-tone down din yung instruction para for that specific child. Yun nga, yun yung nangyayari. Pero yun nga, if that child is having difficulties with reading and numeracy, nagiging mas mahirap to teach them another concept. And then materials also should be anchored according to their specific needs and differences. Family involvement and culturally relevant materials. Okay, so here comes the word contextualization, indigenization, localization. So actually, that's actually a good term kasi, sige, for example, teach ka ng bata about animals. Let's say your topic is on science. Mag-teach ka ng giraffe. Good for those children na nakapunta na ng zoo. Alam ko anong okay, nakakita na nga ng bata ng giraffe, pero sa picture lang. Yung actual baga. So, good for some students who are able to go to zoos. Okay, nakakita ng actual giraffe. How about for those who cannot afford to go to zoos? So, yun. That's why it's important that we make our lessons culturally and culturally relevant. And we need to contextualize. That's why we need to contextualize. They are familiar with the word apple. They have eaten the apple na siguro. Nakakita na rin siguro yung bata ng apple. Pero to actually pick the apple from the actual tree, I think wala pa man sigurong bata dito sa Pinas na nakakuha talaga ng apple from the apple tree mismo. So that's why we need to contextualize. Meron namang maraming fruits dito. Ano bang mga fruits dito na nasa Pinas? We have bayabas. Ano pa? Mangga. Hindi na natin masyadong sigurong pataasin kasi baka mahulog. Tambis. Ano pa? Rambutan, lansones. So, yan. We need to make our resources and our examples readily available for a child to know. Yung makikita lang nila sa community. So, family involvement significantly enhances student engagement and academic outcomes by creating a supportive learning environment that extends beyond the classroom. Additionally, using culturally relevant materials connects learning to students' backgrounds and experiences. Yon, making instruction more meaningful and accessible, particularly for diverse learners. So yung learners natin, kung gagamitin natin bayabas, tambis, rambutan, mas makaka-relate sila, and the tendency is they will participate in the discussion. Kahit yung animals, ano bang animals na andito, ang dami. You don't need to talk about lions, giraffe. Siguro you can talk about them in like parang add-on lang, pero siguro when we use examples, we can use the carabao, the dog, the cat, because the chicken, because it's readily available and they can really see that even in their own communities. Next. So, lessons from Bawat Bata Bumabasa and national programs. So, national scale programs like BBB, 3Bs ang term nila kasi dito, pero ngayon nga, BBM na, Bawat Bata Makababasa, offer invaluable insights into the complexities and successes of implementing widespread educational interventions. So we have teacher training and coaching, where successful national programs underscores that large-scale implementation requires robust, ongoing teacher training and coaching, equipping educators with the necessary skills to deliver explicit and systematic instruction, coupled with continuous professional development, is paramount for program fidelity and effectiveness. However, in a mandate now, they actually like to ensure that teachers are just there to teach learners, which is actually good because at least there's a focus. Yung learning, yung teaching is focused by the teachers nga. Kaya nga binigyan tayo ng mga, kaya kami sa DepEd, I was actually talking on the context of DepEd. So, kaya sa DepEd, all schools are now given non-teaching personnel. We have administrative officers now deployed in every school so that the administrative task and coordinatorships of teachers will now be relieved from them and be given now to the school head and non-teaching personnel. So yun, it's actually a move so that ang teachers trabaho is to teach na lang talaga. Also, ano na, yung kung pwede, parang na-minimize na nga yung ano, yung pagpapa-attend ng teachers ng different seminars. Para lang talaga sa goal na magti-teach lang talaga sila. Kaya ang nangyayari, if may seminar man, nagagamit na yung weekends. Oo. May Sabado na tsaka Sunday. Which is for me, parang naboburn out na din siguro yung teachers kung ganon. I think there's actually a review to that. Wala na akong say dyan. So, I think there's a review to that na siguro hindi naman siguro dapat gamitin na yung weekend. Siguro kung gagamitin man at ay minimal minimal frequency kasi wala nang time for love life, for family, ganon. Then we have continuous assessment. So a key lesson is the necessity of continuous assessment to guide intervention intensity and focus. So regular diagnostic and formative assessments allow educators to track student progress, identify specific learning gaps, and adjust instructional strategies in real time to meet evolving needs. So yun nga, K-12, kaya nga nag-K-12 tayo because we are anchoring to the international arena, to globalization. Kaya it's actually mandated that, it's not mandated, it's actually important that we equip our learners and our teachers with the different 21st century skills because andun lahat yung globalization, yung yun nga, globalization and how learners can navigate in the global arena. We also have holistic academic growth. So programs that integrate both literacy and numeracy supports a more holistic academic growth. So recognizing the interconnectedness of these foundational skills allows for a more comprehensive approach to student development as proficiency in one often supports the other. Oo nga. I think it's always, pareha talagang together ito palagi, itong literacy and numeracy. Kasi if a child is literate, a child should also be numerate. Then we have policy alignment and funding. As I've said kanina, yung ARAL, funds are already downloaded for this, for payment of tutors, for funds are downloaded for materials to be purchased, like reams of bond paper, the ink, so that the the materials for the ARAL shall be printed and be given to the learners. So for long-term sustainability and widespread impact, policy alignment and consistent funding are critical. National programs demonstrate that strong governmental support, clear educational policies, and dedicated financial resources are essential for successful implementation and sustained operation. Now, we have the best practices of educators. Okay, this is actually a collected survey about what are the best practices that educators use in answering and bridging the gap between the gap on literacy and numeracy. So first, implementing evidence-based curricula. So of course, yun yung sabi ko, decisions are data-driven, instruction is data-driven, even the aral is based on data, which are the results of CRLA, PhilErie, ERANT, RMA, yun. So for implementing evidence-based curricula, we prioritize the adoption and consistent use of curricula and instructional materials that are explicitly aligned with the state or national standards and have demonstrated effectiveness through rigorous research. Ito, yung walang katapusang research. So this ensure that resources support systematic and explicit instruction in both literacy and numeracy. Pero yun nga, palagi na tayong revise ng curricula. Just last year, we have matatag. Tapos ngayon naman, na-change naman, revised K to 10. I think nung Miyagi din, revised K to 12. And they are actually now having na naman yung K to 12 Pro ata. Pero it's just it's just an idea pa naman sa Senate. K to 12 Pro, which means adding another year na din daw to K to 12. That's why it's called K to 12 Pro. Parang iPhone Pro Max. Then we have utilize formative assessments. So we integrate regular formative assessments into daily instruction to continuously monitor student progress. So use the data collected. So data is collected from formative assessment to identify learning gaps, differentiate instruction, and tailor interventions to individual student needs, ensuring responsive teaching. Okay, bumalik na naman yung kuryente dito. Then we have number 3, of course, best practice. This is still on the best practices for educators on bridging numeracy and literacy gaps. We have promoting family engagement. I've mentioned this earlier na din. So actively engage families as partners in their child's learning journey. So we provide practical resources and guidance for home-based literacy and numeracy activities, such as shared reading, math games, and discussions about learning. So what's the goal for this? The aim is to reinforce school instruction and foster a supportive learning environment. And then we have, of course, leveraging technology tools. Magaling yung mga teachers natin dito. They're actually very, mas high-tech pa nga sa akin. I was able to observe my teacher using Mentimeter. Ano pa ba yun? I forgot. Basta, she used Mentimeter and it's actually good. Kasi students are engaged in the technology in learning. Hindi yung, baka yung utak ng bata, when we say engaging in technology, may Facebook, may YouTube, ganun. So why not, as educators, we leverage these technology tools, we take advantage of these online platforms and use it in instruction. I think all classrooms naman siguro, most, not all, siguro most classrooms in the Philippines have already televisions. Kasi bumibili si teacher ng personal TV, ganun. Para lang talaga ma-provide yung quality instruction for his or her learners. So thoughtfully incorporate educational technology tools that offer personalized learning paths, adaptive practice, and immediate feedback. So, of course, as teachers, mag-select din tayo ng appropriate platform, hindi yung kahit ano na lang. So, select platforms that complement classroom instruction and provide data to inform teaching decisions. So, this enhances both engagement and effectiveness. So, for my conclusion, let's focus on this quote. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. So what we thought is a child's brain is empty. This is actually according to William Butler Yeats. So for some educators, teaching is like just filling a blank brain, but it's actually not like that. It's actually igniting motivation, igniting the love of learning for each of our learner. Because what's the use of filling up a pail if a child is not motivated to learn? So our exploration has highlighted the transformative power of evidence-based literacy and numeracy interventions. These programs, grounded in rigorous research and effectively implemented, are pivotal in equipping every child with the foundational skills necessary for academic success and lifelong learning. So we have evidence-based interventions to improve outcomes. So the data, I've always mentioned this, that all that we plan should be backed by data, which consistently shows that when schools commit to systematic, explicit, and well-researched interventions, student outcomes in reading and mathematics significantly improve. This commitment translates into higher literacy rates, stronger mathematical proficiency, and ultimately greater opportunities for learners. And then, as educators, I want you to commit to data-driven instruction. So effective education is not static. It's actually always mobile. It requires a continuous cycle of assessment, analysis, and then adaptation. And back na naman to assessment, then we analyze na the data that we collect, and then we adapt if it's actually a good practice. So a steadfast commitment to data-driven instruction ensures that teaching practices are responsive to student needs, leading to continuous improvement and personalized learning experiences. And of course, collaboration, not just among stakeholders, collaboration even with your colleagues. How do you do so? In DepEd, we have collaborative expertise twice a week. Diba? We're doing that twice a week, collaborative expertise. What's the purpose? To talk about issues that we encounter in the week. And then we have our school LAC sessions. There's actually many ways for you to talk about how to improve your teaching. Just start with your own colleagues. I think you have colleagues na, 15 years experience. So they have actually experienced a lot. You can actually benchmark from their good practices. Have benchmark from good. I'm highlighting the good practices. And then, from your school head, of course, what technical assistance she can give. And of course, you can also collaborate with experts outside school. So educators, families, and policymakers must work in concert, sharing insights, resources, and responsibilities to create a comprehensive and supportive ecosystem for learning.